Chief Analyst Zix Thrax's eye stalks twitched in synchronized irritation as he reviewed the latest batch of surveillance footage from that troublesome little blue planet in Sector 7G. His third appendage absently massaged his temple, where a stress nodule was beginning to form. The Galactic Council's Threat Assessment Division had better things to do than babysit a pre-FTL civilization, but orders were orders. Computer, continue playback, he chittered, his mandibles clicking against his ceremonial data stylus. The holoscreen flickered, displaying what the humans called a backyard barbecue, a curious ritual involving the deliberate burning of perfectly good protein sources and the consumption of fermented grain beverages. Zix Thrax had filed 17 separate reports on these gatherings alone, mostly concerning the apparent death wish demonstrated by humans who insisted on cooking while intoxicated. But this particular footage made his thorax plates ripple with unease. Magnification on subjects Alpha and Beta, he commanded. The image zoomed in on two human males standing near something called a pool. "Dude, bet you can't do a backflip off the roof into the pool," Subject Alpha slurred. Subject Beta's face contorted into what Zix Thrax's xenopsychology training identified as a challenge-accepted expression. Then came the phrase that would soon send ripples of terror through the galaxy's most hardened threat analysts. "Hold my beer." Zix Thrax watched in horror as Subject Beta handed his beverage to Alpha, climbed onto the dwelling's roof using nothing but a flimsy maintenance ladder, and proceeded to perform an acrobatic maneuver that by all physical laws should have resulted in immediate death. Instead, the human emerged from the pool triumphant to the cheers of his companions. Computer, pause playback. Zix Thrax's appendages trembled as he dictated his notes. Subject demonstrates complete disregard for personal safety immediately following the phrase "hold my beer." Possible ritual invocation. Religious significance. Further study required. He clicked his mandibles thoughtfully and filed the observation under low-priority cultural anomalies. After all, how dangerous could one simple phrase be? In his 97 cycles as a threat analyst, Zix Thrax had developed a reputation for being unflappable. He'd assessed everything from planet-cracking superweapons to sentient black holes. But had he known that this seemingly innocent phrase would eventually lead to the creation of an entirely new threat classification system, he might have paid more attention to the way Subject Beta's friends were already planning their own stunts, each more dangerous than the last. Instead, he simply filed his report and moved on to analyzing something far more sensible, a human tradition called extreme ironing. 2 weeks later, he would look back on this moment and wonder how he could have been so naive. 3 months after the backyard incident, Zix Thrax's office resembled what humans would call a conspiracy theorist's den. Holoscreen projections covered every surface, each displaying different instances of the dreaded phrase. His assistant, junior analyst Ploop, a gelatinous being who had the unfortunate habit of living up to their name when stressed, quivered nervously in the corner. Sir Ploop burbled, "You need to see this latest footage from the human settlement called Utah." The projection showed a human female, later identified as Trinity No Brakes Rodriguez, perched on a mountain bike at the edge of a massive canyon. Her friend held a camera in one hand and a beverage in the other. "That gap's got to be at least 300 feet, the friend said. "You're not seriously." "Hold my Mountain Dew," Trinity interrupted, handing over her caffeinated beverage. "It's basically beer for breakfast." What followed was 2 minutes and 13 seconds of footage that caused Ploop to lose cohesion and slide partially under the door. Trinity not only jumped the canyon but did 3 mid-air backflips before landing. She then casually texted her mom about dinner plans as if she hadn't just defied several laws of physics and common sense. "Add it to the file," Zix Thrax wheezed, his eye stalks drooping. "Right next to the deep-sea footage." Ah yes, the deep-sea footage. Last week's incident involving marine biologist Dr. Marcus the Kraken Whisperer Chen had sent the entire department into crisis mode. The human had been studying giant squid behavior when one of the creatures grabbed his research vessel. The vessel's black box recording captured the infamous moment. "Hey, watch this." "Hold my thermos of beer-spiked hot chocolate." Dr. Chen then proceeded to exit his perfectly safe submersible, wrestle the giant squid in hand to tentacle combat, and somehow end up riding it like a rodeo bull while collecting tissue samples. He later published a peer-reviewed paper titled Cephalopod Rodeo: A New Approach to Marine Biology, which was currently under consideration for a prestigious award. Sir Ploop had partially reformed. The amateur rocket scientist's footage is ready. Zix Thrax didn't want to watch, but protocol demanded it. The screen showed Gregory Sky's Not the Limit Patterson in his backyard, standing next to what appeared to be a homemade spacecraft constructed from spare parts and what humans called duct tape. NASA rejected my application 7 times, Gregory announced to his livestream audience. So hold my craft beer while I show them how we do it in Kentucky. The resulting launch violated 63 different safety regulations, 17 laws of aerodynamics, and somehow achieved stable orbit while playing Sweet Home Alabama on repeat. 3 different alien civilizations detected the broadcast and filed formal complaints about the music choice. That's it, Thrax announced, his professional composure finally cracking. Get me a human expert. We need to understand this phenomenon before they accidentally discover faster-than-light travel through sheer audacity. Enter Dr. Kendra Martinez, Earth's leading cultural anthropologist and the only human with security clearance high enough to access the Galactic Council's offices. Her first meeting with the Threat Assessment Division went about as well as a nuclear-powered pogo stick which, incidentally, was scheduled for review next week. You have to understand, Dr. Martinez explained to the room full of increasingly agitated aliens, it's not just a phrase, it's a declaration of human potential, a battle cry of innovation through reckless confidence. But the mortality rates, Thrax began. Are surprisingly low, Martinez interrupted, pulling up statistics. Turns out humans are remarkably good at surviving their own terrible ideas. It's kind of our specialty. That's not reassuring, Ploop burbled from their corner. Look, Martinez sighed. Humans have this unique ability to turn that's impossible into hold my beer and watch this. It's led to some of our greatest achievements. The first flight, Wright brothers basically said hold my beer to gravity. Space race? Entire decades of hold my beer between nations. That's how we innovate. The room fell silent, except for the soft sound of Ploop's stress dripping onto the floor. Are you suggesting, Thrax said slowly, his eye stalks fully extended in horror, that this behavior is not only intentional but culturally encouraged? Oh, absolutely, Martinez grinned. Wait until you hear about Florida Man. The mention of Florida Man caused 3 junior analysts to request immediate transfer to the Quantum Singularity Observation Department, considering it a safer career choice. As if on cue, a priority alert flashed across the main screen. Somewhere in the Antarctic, a human physicist had just uttered the phrase hold my beer while standing next to an experimental particle accelerator. Thrax's stress nodule tripled in size. Somehow he knew this was only the beginning. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was in chaos. Representatives from 17 advanced civilizations buzzed, floated, or oozed around the chamber, their universal translators struggling to keep up with the overlapping panic. At the center of the chamber, a holographic display showed the unstable star BS-42, which humans would later insist stood for Bullshit 42. The massive stellar body was undergoing unprecedented fluctuations, threatening to go supernova in a way that would take out 3 major civilizations and ruin everyone else's millennium. Order, Supreme Counselor VZT Pop demanded, their electromagnetic form crackling with frustration. The Quantumites have the floor. A shimmering cloud of quantum-entangled particles formed into a rough approximation of a podium speaker. We have run 47.2 trillion simulations. There is no solution that doesn't result in catastrophic failure. We recommend immediate evacuation of the affected systems. The hive mind of Epsilon concurs, buzzed another representative. Our collective consciousness has analyzed every possibility. The star's decay cannot be prevented or controlled. Thrax, now promoted to senior crisis analyst due to his extensive experience with human-related chaos, sat in the observation gallery watching the proceedings with a growing sense of dread. Not because of the star, no, what terrified him was the human representative who had just arrived. Commander James Crash Thompson earned his nickname by surviving 7 impossible crashes, including one that technically happened before he took off. He swaggered into the council chamber wearing an outdated flight jacket covered in patches, each commemorating a stunt that had made Thrax file increasingly desperate threat assessments. Looks like why all got yourselves a pickle, Thompson drawled, casually leaning against the ancient and sacred podium of galactic truth. The quantum representative flickered in irritation. This is beyond human comprehension. The stellar mechanics involved. Yeah, Thompson waved dismissively. Big star go boom, everyone dies, very sad. But what if we just... He paused for dramatic effect, didn't let it. The chamber erupted in multiple languages, all variations of impossible. Dr. Martinez, who had been quietly observing from the human delegation section, suddenly sat up straight. She recognized the gleam in Thompson's eyes. It was the same look that preceded the great yogurt rocket incident of 2023. "Commander," she called out, unable to help herself, "please tell me you're not thinking what I think you're thinking." Thompson's grin widened. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a battered flask labeled Emergency Ideas Juice. "The human is introducing alcohol into these sacred proceedings," gasped a crystalline being from the Rigel system. "This is unprecedented." "Oh, honey," Martinez muttered, "you ain't seen nothing yet." Thompson took a long swig from his flask, wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, and approached the central holographic display. "Right, so here's the thing about unstable stars. They're like those mechanical bulls in Texas bars. All you gotta do is ride 'em out." The universal translators struggled so hard with this analogy that 2 of them sparked and had to be replaced. Commander Thompson's Supreme Counselor VZT Pop crackled. "Are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we round up every mining ship in the quadrant, strap on some experimental quantum stabilizers I borrowed from a buddy in RD, and basically lasso this bad boy until it behaves." The silence that followed was so profound that you could hear Ploop's stress dripping from their new position as junior council secretary. "That's the quantum representative," flickered rapidly. "That's not how stellar mechanics work. The energy requirements alone would be." Thompson handed his flask to Martinez. "Why, I'll watch this." Those 3 words sent every alien who had ever worked in threat assessment diving for cover. Martinez clutched the flask, having flashbacks to the lunar dirt bike derby. Thompson pulled out a data pad and started drawing what looked suspiciously like a rodeo arena in space. "See, if we position the ships like this, using the star's own magnetic field as a guide." His explanation involved no fewer than 12 references to various Earth rodeos, 3 country music analogies, and 1 inexplicable but somehow relevant story about his grandmother's prize-winning chili recipe. The most terrifying part? The math checked out. "This is madness," whispered the hive mind of Epsilon. "This is humanity," Martinez replied, taking a sip from the flask. "Specifically, this is a human who just said, 'Why, I'll watch this,' which means either we're all about to die, or we're about to witness something amazing." Thompson finished his presentation with a flourish. "So who's in?" Zix Thrax, who had been frantically updating the threat assessment database, finally spoke up. "The probability of success is 0.0000001%. "Hot damn. Those are better odds than my first marriage," Thompson beamed. "I like them odds." The Galactic Council had no protocol for dealing with this level of human audacity. They found themselves approving the mission before they fully understood what they were agreeing to. As the chamber emptied, Martinez approached Thompson. "You know this is insane, right?" "Of course it is. That's why it'll work," he paused thoughtfully. "Though we might want to evacuate that one moon. Just in case." "Which moon?" "We'll figure that out when we get there." Somewhere in the galaxy, every threat analyst's warning system simultaneously went to maximum alert. The age of Hold My Beer had gone interstellar. The staging area for Operation Stellar Rodeo, as Thompson had insisted on naming it, resembled what would happen if a Texas rodeo collided with the Space Navy in a quantum physics textbook. 300 repurposed mining vessels, their hulls hastily painted with various Earth rodeo motifs, formed a loose circle around what Command had dubbed the mother of all bad ideas. From the observation deck of the flagship Hold My Beer, actually Zix Thrax watched in mounting horror as Thompson conducted his pre-mission briefing. "Now, why all might be wondering about all them quantum stabilizers we've jury-rigged to your ships," Thompson addressed the mixed crew of humans and aliens. "Truth is, we borrowed them from a fancy research facility. And when I say borrowed, I mean we left an IOU note and ran like hell." A Vulaxian captain raised 3 of their tentacles. "These devices are experimental, untested, potentially unstable." "Exactly," Thompson beamed. "That's what makes it fun." Dr. Martinez, now officially designated as Human Insanity Translator, stepped in. "What the commander means is that conventional methods have a 0% chance of success. Using untested technology gives us a non-zero chance, which technically makes this our best option." "And the explosives?" asked a nervous-looking Centaurian engineer, pointing at the massive cargo holds filled with what Thompson had labeled party favors. "Ah, that's the good stuff." Thompson's eyes lit up. "We've got enough boom-boom juice here to make Michael Bay ask us to tone it down. We're talking antimatter charges, quantum destabilizers, and something my cousin Bubba cooked up in his garage that we're pretty sure breaks several laws of physics." The observation deck's stress monitoring system was reporting unprecedented levels of alien anxiety. 3 different species had developed entirely new nervous system responses just to accommodate their fear. The plan is simple, Thompson continued, pulling up a holographic display that somehow included clip art of cowboys. We're going to form a perfect circle around this ornery star, sync up our quantum stabilizers, and essentially create the biggest game of jump rope the galaxy's ever seen. Jump rope, the universal translator smoking slightly. Then Thompson grinned. While we've got it distracted with that fancy quantum footwork, we're going to hit it with all our party favors in a precisely timed sequence that my nephew calculated on the back of a napkin during his quantum physics final. You're basing stellar gravitational calculations on a napkin? Zix-Thrax's eye stalks were fully extended in horror. Nah, of course not, Thompson replied. Several aliens sighed in relief. We're basing them on 3 napkins, plus some math my nephew did on his arm when he ran out of paper. The relief evaporated faster than water in a Texas summer. Dr. Martinez watched as the alien crew members went through the 5 stages of grief regarding their participation in this mission. Most were stuck somewhere between denial and bargaining. One more thing, Thompson added, pulling out another flask. Where was he keeping them all? If this works, we're going to be heroes. If it doesn't, he took a swig, well, ain't nobody going to be around to blame us anyway. The next hour was a blur of activity as ships moved into position. The quantum stabilizers hummed ominously, occasionally shooting out sparks that Thompson insisted were just showing off. From the emergency bunker several light years away, the Galactic Council watched via quantum feed. The quantum representative had to be restrained from trying to shut down the operation multiple times. Position check, Thompson's voice crackled over the comms. Everybody ready to do the dumbest thing in galactic history. A series of increasingly resigned affirmatives followed. Partner Thompson addressed the star directly. You're about to learn why you don't mess with Texas, or humanity, or whatever. Hit it. 300 quantum stabilizers activated simultaneously. The energy field they created looked like a cosmic lasso made of pure mathematics and bad decisions. The star, as if sensing what was about to happen, began to pulse erratically. Phase 1 complete, Thompson shouted. Now for the fun part. Release the party favors. What followed would be described differently by various observers. The quantum representative called it a violation of every known law of physics. The hive mind of Epsilon termed it organized chaos on a stellar scale. Dr. Martinez labeled it pure, weapons-grade Florida man energy. Zix-Thrax simply screamed internally while filing the longest threat assessment in galactic history. The explosions rippled through space in a carefully orchestrated dance of destruction and stabilization. Bubba's garage-made device turned out to create miniature temporal vortexes that actually helped contain the stellar material. Yeehaw, Thompson's voice cut through the chaos. That's how we do it back home. Against all odds, against all logic, against the very laws of physics themselves, the star began to stabilize. The quantum field held, the explosions worked, and somehow, impossibly, Thompson's rodeo-inspired madness had succeeded. The cost? Merely 17 trillion credits in equipment, the complete rewriting of several physics textbooks, and the collective sanity of every alien observer. As the dust settled and the star pulsed with a now steady rhythm, Thompson keyed the general comm. See? Told y'all it would work. Now, who's up for celebratory drinks? I've got another flask around here somewhere. The sound of hundreds of aliens face-palming, or their species equivalent, echoed through space. Dr. Martinez looked at her own empty flask, then at the newly stabilized star. Well, she mused, at least this proves my thesis about human innovation through controlled chaos. There was nothing controlled about this, Zix-Thrax protested. That's what makes it beautiful, she replied, watching Thompson attempt to teach a group of Vulaxians how to line dance in zero gravity. That's what makes it human. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began exactly as one might expect after humanity's most expensive hold my beer moment with collective screaming. Order. Order. Supreme Counselor VZT Pop's electromagnetic field was crackling so intensely it kept shorting out the translators. We must address the implications of yesterday's events. Commander Thompson sat in the witness chair, boots propped up on an ancient ceremonial railing, looking entirely too pleased with himself. Dr. Martinez stood nearby, barely containing her smugness. Zix-Thrax had taken up a position behind a reinforced barrier, accompanied by a visibly quivering ploop. The current threat classification system is clearly inadequate, announced the head of the Council's Threat Assessment Division, a hyper-intelligent shade of blue named Azure. We need something new to categorize, whatever that was. If I may, Dr. Martinez stepped forward. I propose Baja beer-adjacent human activities, a classification specifically for when humans combine alcohol, audacity, and physics-defying success. Seconded Ploop burbled through their stress. Now hold on, Thompson drawled. You're making it sound like we're some kind of threat. We just saved 3 civilizations. By violating 17 fundamental laws of physics, the quantum representative flickered frantically, using explosives made in someone's garage. Hey now, Bubba has a PhD, he just prefers to work from home. The council chamber erupted into chaos again. Several species evolved new organs specifically to express their frustration. Dr. Martinez cleared her throat. Perhaps I can explain. You see, humanity has a unique approach to innovation. We call it the hold my beer hypothesis. When faced with impossible odds, we don't just think outside the box, we forget the box exists and build a rocket out of its remains. She pulled up a holographic chart that somehow included both complex mathematical formulae and cartoon doodles of beer mugs. Consider the data: 43% of human technological breakthroughs began with phrases like hold my beer or watch this. Another 27% started with I bet you can't, and a surprising 15% with why all gonna want to see this. This cannot be real, Azure whispered in horror. Oh, it gets better, Martinez grinned. Remember the quantum stabilizers we borrowed? Turns out they were originally designed by a graduate student who was told her theories were impossible. Her documented response was hold my coffee, which is basically hold my beer for sleep-deprived academics. Thompson nodded sagely. That's why we knew they'd work. Anything invented after someone says hold my beverage has a statistically significant chance of breaking physics in exactly the right way. Zixthrax's stress nodule had developed its own stress nodule. The council spent the next 3 hours drafting the new Baja protocols. Key points included mandatory evacuation procedures for any sector where humans are heard saying watch this. Emergency response teams specifically trained in dealing with beer-adjacent physics violations. A new mathematical formula for calculating the probability of success based on the audacity to alcohol ratio. A specialized task force to monitor something humans called Florida. There's one more thing, Thompson added as the session was wrapping up. Remember how we had to evacuate that moon? Everyone tensed. Turns out it wasn't necessary. And here's the fun part, while we were moving everyone, some college kids from MIT figured out how to make the evacuation ships go twice as fast by, and I quote, putting flame decals on the quantum drives. That's not possible, the quantum representative sputtered. Tell that to the laws of physics we broke. Again, Thompson winked. My nephew's already working on a paper titled The Aesthetic Velocity Theorem: How Looking Cool Makes Ships Go Faster. As the council session ended, Dr. Martinez found Zixthrax hiding behind his threat assessment terminal. You know what the real kicker is, she said, enjoying his eye stalks' nervous twitching. This whole incident has inspired a new generation. Right now, all across Earth, humans are looking at supposedly impossible problems and saying those magic words. On cue, the emergency alert system began blaring. Somewhere in the Andromeda galaxy, a human geological survey team had just discovered something interesting. The last transmitted words were, hey, why all, watch this. Ploop melted completely through the floor. I'm retiring, Zixthrax announced. Effective immediately. I hear the Void Contemplation Department is nice this time of year. Oh, come on, Martinez laughed. Where's your sense of adventure? From the corridor came Thompson's voice, hey, who wants to see if we can make a black hole do backflips? Zixthrax's scream joined a chorus of alien panic, creating a harmonic resonance that would later be classified as a new form of music by human anthropologists. In the years that followed, the galaxy would learn to both fear and respect the phrase hold my beer. The Baja classification would become the most cited protocol in council history, and humanity would continue to solve impossible problems through what Dr. Martinez's best-selling book would call the strategic application of liquid courage and questionable decision-making. And somewhere, in a quiet corner of the Threat Assessment Division's archives, a small plaque was installed. It read, in this spot, Chief Analyst Zixthrax first encountered the phrase hold my beer, the universe was never the same. Below it, someone, probably Thompson, had added in marker, y'all ain't seen nothing yet.